I would quit. But when I saw the picture on the desk, something made me change my mind. Harrison Sterling had made the most difficult decision of his professional life. After 25 years of building a business empire from scratch, he was ready to abandon everything. The pressure, the constant disappointments, and a series of betrayals by partners had pushed him to his emotional limit. That Monday morning, he entered his office on the top floor of the executive tower with only one mission: to sign his resignation letter and hand the company over to the lawyers to sort out. He had spent the entire weekend drafting the document, weighing every word that would explain his permanent exit from the business. At 52, Harrison felt he no longer had the strength to fight the corruption and disloyalty that dominated his industry. When he sat in his leather chair for the last time, his eyes scanned the space that had been his second home for over 2 decades. The walls covered with certificates and photos of professional achievements seemed to mock him in that moment of personal defeat. He opened the drawer where he kept the most important documents and took out the sealed envelope containing his resignation. It was then that his assistant, Sarah Jenkins, knocked on the door and entered without waiting for a response. The 28-year-old had worked with him for only 6 months, but had proven to be one of the most dedicated employees he had ever known. Her blonde hair was tied in a messy bun, and she carried a stack of contracts that urgently needed his approval. "Mr. Harrison, I managed to finish reviewing the contracts for Metro Construction Group," said Sarah, approaching the desk with hurried steps. "I found some clauses that could cause us problems in the future." Harrison watched her lean over his desk, spreading out the documents with the typical dedication of someone who truly cared about the work. She pointed to specific sections, explaining each detail with a passion he had lost long ago. It was at that moment that something unexpected happened. A small framed photo slipped from Sarah's bag and fell onto the papers scattered on the desk. The image showed a little girl of about 6, with light brown hair and bright eyes, smiling at the camera in a flower garden. The child wore a pink dress and held a yellow teddy bear. Harrison felt his heart race inexplicably. Something about that photo hit him like a punch in the stomach, making him completely forget about the resignation and all the problems tormenting him. His eyes remained fixed on the image of the girl, as if she were a ghost from the past resurfacing to confront him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison," Sarah said quickly, trying to retrieve the photo. "It must have fallen out of my bag." "Wait." Harrison held the photo carefully, as if it were a fragile treasure. "Who is this girl?" Sarah hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the personal question. Harrison realized he had never shown interest in his employees' private lives, always maintaining a strict professional distance. It's my daughter, sir," Sarah replied in a low voice. "Your daughter?" Harrison couldn't hide his surprise. "You never mentioned you had a daughter." "I don't usually talk about my personal life at work," Sarah explained, reaching out to get the photo back. "You've always made it clear you prefer to keep things separate." Harrison continued holding the photo, studying every detail of the child's face. There was something deeply familiar about those eyes, something that stirred an old, well-guarded pain in his chest. He remembered another pair of similar eyes, another girl who had once been his reason for living. "What's her name?" he asked, still hypnotized by the image. "Emily," Sarah answered, watching her boss's strange expression. "She's 6 years old." The name hit Harrison like a bolt of lightning. Emily. The same name as the daughter he had lost 15 years ago, in a tragedy that destroyed his marriage and his ability to trust people. His hand began to tremble imperceptibly as he held the photo. "She looks—" Harrison started to speak but stopped himself. "Sorry, I didn't mean to be intrusive." Sarah noticed the radical change in her boss's behavior. The always imposing and controlled man seemed vulnerable in that moment, as if the simple sight of the photo had awakened something deep within him. "Mr. Harrison, are you all right?" she asked, with genuine concern. Harrison blinked several times, trying to compose himself. He handed the photo back to Sarah carefully and leaned back in his chair, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions the image had triggered. The envelope with his resignation remained on the desk, momentarily forgotten. "Sorry, Sarah. It's just, your daughter reminded me of someone very important," he said, running a hand through his graying hair. "You said she's 6 years old?" "Yes, she turned 6 in March," Sarah confirmed, still puzzled by her boss's sudden interest. Harrison did a quick calculation in his head. His daughter Emily would be 21 if she were alive. This was a completely different child, born long after the tragedy that marked his life. Even so, the physical resemblance disturbed him deeply. "Does she live with you?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Yes, it's just the two of us," Sarah replied, carefully putting the photo back in her bag. "Her father isn't part of our lives." The answer stirred an unexpected sympathy in Harrison. He knew what it was like to raise a child alone, even if only for a short time. Before the tragedy, he had gone through a difficult period when his ex-wife Catherine suffered severe postpartum depression, and he had to take on most of the care for Emily. "It must be hard to balance work and motherhood," Harrison commented, showing an empathy that surprised both Sarah and himself. "Sometimes it's challenging," Sarah admitted, "but she's a very understanding girl. She stays with my neighbor, Mrs. Margaret, when I need to work late." Harrison felt a twinge of admiration for Sarah's dedication. He remembered how difficult it was to balance professional responsibilities with the care of a young child. During the first years of his Emily's life, he had cancelled countless important meetings to be present for doctor's appointments and school events. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. "Sarah, may I ask a personal question?" Harrison said, surprising himself with his own initiative. Sarah nodded hesitantly, still not understanding her boss's sudden interest in her private life. "Did you always want to be a mother?" The question caught Sarah off guard. She was silent for a few seconds, considering whether she should share something so intimate with her boss. There was something in Harrison's expression, however, that made her feel he truly wanted to know. "The truth is, Emily is not my biological daughter," Sarah confessed, lowering her voice. "I adopted her when she was 3 years old." Harrison felt another shock run through his body. The revelation opened a wound he thought had healed. His own daughter had disappeared at 6 years old, on an autumn afternoon he could never forget. "Adopted?" he repeated, trying to keep his voice steady. "She was in a foster care center in the neighboring town," Sarah explained. "She had been found at a bus station, apparently abandoned. When I saw her for the first time, I felt an immediate connection. It was as if she were my biological daughter." Sarah's words hit Harrison like hammer blows. His own daughter had disappeared at a bus station during a trip he and his ex-wife had taken in a last-ditch effort to save their marriage. For a moment, an absurd possibility crossed his mind, but he dismissed it immediately. It was just a painful coincidence. "In what city did this happen?" asked Harrison, trying to sound merely curious. "In Asheville, about 200 kilometers from here," Sarah replied. "It's a small town near the mountains." Harrison knew Asheville. That was exactly where he and Catherine had traveled 15 years ago, in a final attempt to reconnect a marriage that was disintegrating after Emily's birth. The trip that was supposed to be a new beginning became the end of everything when their daughter mysteriously disappeared from the bus station while they waited for the return bus. "Mr. Harrison?" Sarah noticed he had stopped responding. "Are you sure you're all right?" Harrison shook his head, trying to focus on the present. He was letting his imagination create connections where they probably didn't exist. Thousands of children pass through foster care centers every year. The coincidence of the city was disturbing, but it meant nothing. "Sorry, Sarah. It's just that you reminded me of a very difficult time in my life," he said, forcing a smile. "I had a daughter once, too." "You did?" Sarah asked delicately. "She disappeared when she was 6, Harrison confessed, feeling the familiar pain tighten his chest. "It was 15 years ago. I never found her." Sarah brought her hand to her chest, clearly moved by the revelation. Now she understood Harrison's strange reaction upon seeing Emily's photo. The physical resemblance between the girls must have awakened painful memories. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrison," she said sincerely. "I can't even imagine how terrible that must have been." "It's what turned me into the person I am today," Harrison admitted, looking out the office window. "Closed off, distrustful, focused only on work. I thought if I didn't care about anything else, I couldn't be hurt again." Sarah remained silent, absorbing her boss's unexpected vulnerability. It was the first time she saw him as a human being with feelings and pain, instead of the relentless executive everyone knew. "What was her name?" Sarah asked gently. "Emily," Harrison answered, and his voice almost failed him. The coincidence of names made Sarah swallow hard. She looked at the photo she held and then at Harrison, seeing the genuine pain in his eyes. "How old would your daughter be today?" 21, Harrison calculated quickly. "If she were alive." "Why do you think she isn't alive?" Harrison sighed deeply. It was a question he had asked himself every day for 15 years. "I searched for her tirelessly for years. I hired investigators, put up posters all over the country, offered rewards. Nothing. It's as if she simply vanished from the face of the earth." "And your wife? How did she handle it?" "Ex-wife," Harrison corrected. "Emily's disappearance destroyed our marriage. Catherine blamed herself and me. We couldn't get through the loss together. She moved to another state and cut off all contact with me." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. The story was devastating and explained so much about Harrison's distant behavior. "Mr. Harrison, may I suggest something?" "Of course." "Would you like to meet my Emily?" Sarah offered. "Maybe it could help you. I don't know, perhaps find some peace." Harrison considered the proposal. Part of him was afraid to see the girl in person, fearing the physical resemblance would awaken even more pain. But another part, a part that had been dormant for years, felt curious and even hopeful. "Would you mind?" "Not at all. Emily is a very affectionate girl. She would be happy to meet you." Harrison looked again at the envelope with his resignation on the desk. Just an hour ago, he was convinced his professional life had come to an end. Now, for the first time in years, he felt something different from the bitterness and despair that accompanied him daily. "Sarah, can I confess something?" "Yes, sir." "When you walked in here today, I was about to resign from the company," Harrison revealed, touching the envelope. "I was convinced there was nothing left that kept me interested in this life." Sarah was stunned. Harrison's company was solid and respected in the market. His departure would be a shock to all the employees. "Why, Mr. Harrison?" "I'm tired of fighting alone. I'm tired of not trusting anyone. I'm tired of living only for work, without any greater purpose. And now?" Harrison picked up the envelope and looked at it for a long moment. "Now I feel that perhaps there is still a reason to continue," he said, putting the document away in the drawer. "Your daughter reminded me that there is beauty and innocence in the world, even after so much pain." Sarah smiled for the first time since she had entered the office. "So you would like to meet her?" "Very much," Harrison replied without hesitation. "How about this afternoon? I can pick her up from school and bring her here if you don't mind." Harrison considered the proposal. His office wasn't the most appropriate place to receive a child, but he was too eager to wait any longer. "Actually, how about we go somewhere more suitable for children?" Harrison suggested. "I know a very beautiful park near here." "Emily would love that. She loves parks." "Then it's settled. What time do you finish work?" "Usually at 5, but I can leave early today if you allow it." "Of course. Leave at 3. Let's meet at Central Park at 4 o'clock. Sarah nodded, excited about the plan. Something magical was happening in that office, a transformation she couldn't fully explain. "Mr. Harrison, may I ask a question?" "Feel free." "What made you change your mind about resigning? Was it just the photo of Emily?" Harrison thought carefully before answering. "I think it was the memory of what it's like to love someone unconditionally," he said. "When I lost my daughter, I thought I could never feel that connection with another person again. But something in the way you spoke about your Emily made me realize that perhaps I gave up too soon on believing in love." "Love has no age to begin or begin again," Sarah said wisely. "You're right. Maybe it's time for me to try again." The two fell silent for a few moments, absorbing the depth of the conversation they had shared. It was as if an invisible barrier had been broken between them. "Sarah, may I ask a favor?" "Of course." "Can you tell me more about Emily? What is she like? What does she like? What are her dreams?" Sarah's eyes lit up. It was evident how much she loved talking about her daughter. Emily is a very special girl. She is curious, asks 1,000 questions a day. She loves to draw and make up stories. She has an incredible imagination. And what else does she like? She is passionate about animals. She dreams of being a veterinarian when she grows up. She also loves music. She's learning to play the keyboard at school. Harrison smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. Sarah's descriptions painted the portrait of a happy and healthy child, despite the difficult circumstances of her origin. "How did you meet?" Harrison asked. "I worked as a volunteer at the foster care center on weekends," Sarah explained. Emily had arrived just a few months before and was very shy. She didn't talk to anyone, just drew all the time. What did she draw? Always the same thing: a house with a garden, a family with a daddy, mommy, and a little girl. It was as if she was remembering something or dreaming of something she wanted to have. Harrison felt a chill. His daughter also loved to draw houses with gardens when she was little. "And how did you get her to open up?" "It was very gradual. I started by sitting next to her while she drew without saying anything. Little by little, she began to show me the drawings. Then she started to say a few words. It took months before she smiled at me." It must have been a very delicate process. It was, but every minute was worth it. When she finally called me Mom for the first time, I knew we were meant to be together. Harrison was moved by the story. Sarah had given Emily exactly what his own daughter would have needed if she were alive: unconditional love and patience. And was the adoption process complicated? Relatively. Since I was single and had a modest income, I had to prove I could provide a stable home for her. But the psychologists saw our connection and approved the adoption. "You never regretted it?" "Not for a second," Sarah answered emphatically. "Emily completely transformed my life. Before her, I felt lost, without purpose. Now I have a reason to wake up every day wanting to be a better person." Harrison understood the feeling perfectly. That was exactly how he felt with his biological daughter before he lost her. "Sarah, can I make a confession?" "Yes." "I'm nervous to meet your Emily," admitted Harrison. "I haven't been around children in a long time. I don't know if I'll know how to act." "Just be yourself. Children have an incredible perception of people. Emily will sense if you are genuine or not." "And what if I trigger bad memories for her? What if I scare her?" "That won't happen," Sarah assured him. "Emily is a resilient girl. She's been through a lot, but she chose to be happy. You'll see." Harrison nodded, trying to convince himself everything would be fine. Part of him still couldn't believe he had cancelled his resignation because of a photo of a child he didn't even know. "Sarah, you said Emily was found at a bus station." "Yes. According to the foster care center records, she was alone, with no documents. Apparently, she had been there for several hours before anyone noticed she was a lost child." "Did she remember anything about how she got there?" "Very little. She was only 3 years old when she was found. She spoke a few scattered words about sad mommy and daddy from work, but nothing that made much sense." Harrison felt his heart race. Catherine really was very sad around the time Emily disappeared, and he was always described as daddy from work because he spent long hours at the office. "Daddy from work?" repeated Harrison, trying to keep his voice casual. "Yes. That's how she referred to some man who was part of her life before. The psychologists believed it was a fragmented memory of her biological father." Harrison had to hold onto the chair to keep from fainting. The coincidences were piling up in a way he could no longer ignore. But still, it seemed impossible. How could his daughter have ended up in a foster care center without anyone knowing where she came from? "Sarah, do you have access to the foster care center's original records?" asked Harrison, trying to sound merely curious. "Some, yes. Why the interest?" "It's just, well, your story reminds me so much of what happened to my daughter. It might just be a coincidence, but—" Sarah looked at him with growing attention. "Do you think there might be some connection?" Harrison hesitated. He didn't want to create false hopes, neither for himself nor for Sarah, but the coincidences were too many to ignore. "I don't know. Probably I'm being irrational, but I'd like to see if there's any information about exactly when Emily was found." "I can get that data," Sarah offered. "I still keep in touch with some people from the foster care center. Would you do that? Of course. If there's any possibility these stories are connected, we need to investigate. Harrison felt a mixture of hope and terror. If his suspicions were true, everything in his life would change completely. But if they were just cruel coincidences, the disappointment could be devastating. Sarah, is there anything else Emily remembers from the time before the foster care center? She sometimes talks about strange dreams. She dreams of a man in a suit who smells of expensive cologne and of a woman who cries a lot. But the psychologists say they might just be reconstructed memories, not necessarily real. Harrison had been wearing the same cologne for over 20 years. It was an imported cologne that Catherine had given him on their first wedding anniversary. And Catherine really did cry a lot during her postpartum depression. "What kind of cologne?" asked Harrison, his voice almost failing. "She always says it's a big, important daddy smell, a distinctive men's fragrance." Harrison took the cologne bottle from his suit jacket's inner pocket and opened it. It was an automatic gesture he made several times a day, but this time he realized just how distinctive that scent really was. "Is it like this?" he asked, extending the bottle to Sarah. Sarah smelled it, and her eyes widened. "That's exactly how Emily describes it," she exclaimed. "How is this possible?" Harrison put the cologne away with trembling hands. The evidence was piling up in a way he could no longer deny. "Sarah, I need to tell you exactly what happened the day my daughter disappeared." "I'm listening." Harrison took a deep breath and began to recount the story he had tried to forget for 15 years. It was October 2008. Catherine had been suffering from severe depression since Emily's birth. Our marriage was falling apart. We decided to take a trip to Asheville to try to reconnect away from the city's problems. Sarah paid attention to every word, her heart beating faster and faster. Emily was 6 years old and was excited about the trip. We spent 3 days at a hotel near the mountains, trying to act like a normal family again. And what happened? On the last day, we went to the bus station to catch the bus back. Catherine was having a panic attack because of the crowds. Emily was playing near us while we waited for the bus to be announced. Harrison stopped reliving every painful detail. Suddenly, Catherine started screaming that she couldn't be a mother anymore, that she couldn't take care of Emily. She was having a complete nervous breakdown. I tried to calm her down, but she ran out of the bus station. And Emily? I ran after Catherine, thinking Emily was safe playing right there. When I managed to bring Catherine back, 15 minutes later, Emily was gone. Sarah brought her hand to her mouth, clearly shocked. We searched for hours. The bus station security, other people, everyone helped us. It was as if she had simply vanished. And did you report it to the authorities? Immediately. But they never found any leads. No camera had recorded the moment of the disappearance. No one saw anything suspicious. And your wife? Catherine never forgave herself. She believed she was guilty for causing the commotion that allowed the disappearance. She spent months admitted to a psychiatric clinic. When she got out, she couldn't even look at me without remembering that terrible day. Sarah was crying openly. "Mr. Harrison, do you realize what this could mean?" "I'm trying not to get my hopes up," Harrison said, but his voice betrayed his emotion. "It could just be a series of coincidences." "But they are too many coincidences," Sarah insisted. "The city, the age, the bus station, the memories of her, the perfume." Harrison nodded. In his heart, he already knew the truth, but his rational mind still resisted. "Sarah, you said you can get the records from the foster care center. I can call them right now, if you'd like." "Please." Sarah picked up her cell phone and dialed a number. Harrison heard only one side of the conversation, but could tell from her expression that she was getting important information. "Hi, Susan, it's Sarah." "Yes, Laura is fine. Listen, can you help me with some information about the day Laura arrived at the foster care center? I need to know the exact date and any details you have on record." Harrison was gripping the arm of the chair so tightly his knuckles were white. "Uh-huh. October 15th, 2008. At 9 in the evening. Found at the Asheville bus station at 2 in the afternoon." Harrison felt the world spin around him. October 15th, 2008 was exactly the day his daughter had disappeared. and 2 in the afternoon was precisely the time he realized she was gone. Sarah continued jotting down the information. She was wearing a blue dress with flowers, hair in 2 pigtails, holding a teddy bear. Harrison could no longer contain himself. Tears began to stream down his face. He remembered perfectly the clothes Emily was wearing that day. It was her favorite dress, a birthday gift Catherine had bought. "Susan, one more question. Do you have any photos from when she arrived, or any object she brought with her?" Harrison waited anxiously as Sarah listened to the answer. "I see. Yes. Can you hold it for me? I'll stop by early tomorrow." "Thank you, Susan." Sarah hung up the phone and looked at Harrison with tears in her eyes. "Mr. Harrison, Emily arrived at the foster care center on the exact day and time your daughter disappeared. She was wearing exactly the clothes you described." Harrison couldn't speak. 15 years of pain, searching and despair were being rewritten in a matter of minutes. "And there's more," Sarah continued. "They kept the teddy bear she brought. Susan said it's a very old yellow bear with worn-out ears." Harrison abruptly rose from his chair. He remembered every detail of that bear. He had bought it for Emily on her first birthday. She never slept without it. "Sarah," he said with a trembling voice, "I think we've found my daughter. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing." The 2 of them were silent for long minutes, absorbing the magnitude of the discovery. Harrison had to sit down again, feeling his legs weak. Sarah remained standing, holding the photo of Emily as if it were a sacred relic. "How are we going to tell her?" Sarah finally asked. "I don't know," Harrison admitted. "She doesn't know me. To her, you are her real mother. But you are her biological father. She has the right to know. What if she doesn't want to know? What if this destroys the life you've built together?" Sarah considered the words carefully. "Mr. Harrison, may I suggest we speak with a specialized psychologist before we make any decisions?" "That's a good idea. This is too delicate for us to handle alone. But regardless of how we tell her, we need to be absolutely certain. You mentioned a DNA test?" Harrison nodded. "It's the only way to confirm with 100% certainty." "How do we do that without frightening Emily?" "There are tests that can be done discreetly. We only need a few strands of hair or some saliva." Sarah hesitated. "Wouldn't that be too invasive?" "Sarah, you don't understand," Harrison said, his voice laden with emotion. "If Emily is really my daughter, these have been the longest 15 years of my life. I need to be sure." Sarah watched him and saw the deep pain in his eyes. She tried to put herself in his position, imagining what it would be like to discover that a lost daughter was alive and well, being raised by someone else. "All right," she agreed, "but we do this carefully, without her noticing." "Thank you, Sarah. You have no idea what this means to me." "Actually, I think I do," Sarah said softly. "If someone told me Emily wasn't really my daughter, I'd be desperate too." Harrison realized Sarah's emotional dilemma. If Emily was indeed his biological daughter, it meant Sarah would lose the most important person in her life. "Sarah, I want you to know something," said Harrison, gently touching her arm. "No matter what we find out, you will always be Emily's mother. You raised her, took care of her, gave her love when she needed it most. That will never change. But if she is your biological daughter, you'll want to be together." "Not necessarily," Harrison replied. "Emily is 9 years old. Her life is established here with you. I have no right to destroy that just because I discovered the truth late." "So what do you want?" Harrison thought carefully before answering. "I want to meet her. I want to know if she's happy and healthy. And if possible, I want to be part of her life, even if it's just as a family friend." Sarah felt immense relief. She had feared Harrison would want to take Emily from her legally. "Would you be capable of that? Giving up your rights as the biological father?" "Sarah, I lost 15 years of her life. You've been with her for 6 years. You are her mother in practice. It would be selfish of me to want to change that now." But what if she wants to know you as her father? What if, when she learns the truth, she wants to have a father-daughter relationship with you? Harrison considered the possibility. Then we'll create a different kind of family. Not traditional, but functional. Emily can have two parents, you who raised her and me who fathered her. Her well-being is the most important thing. Sarah smiled for the first time since the conversation had taken this dramatic turn. You know, Mr. Sterling, I think Emily would be very proud to have a father like you. Why? Because you're putting her interests above your own. That's what real parents do. Harrison was moved by Sarah's words. He had spent so many years blaming himself for losing Emily that he had forgotten to be kind to himself. Sarah, can I confess something? Of course. All these years I blamed myself for what happened. I thought that if I had been a better father, if I had paid more attention, if I hadn't run after Catherine... Mr. Sterling, you can't blame yourself for a tragedy. Sometimes things just happen. But I was her father. It was my responsibility to protect her. And you did what you could at that moment. You tried to help your wife and protect your daughter at the same time. There was no way to predict what would happen. Harrison nodded, but still carried the weight of guilt. What if Emily can't forgive me when she learns the truth? What if she blames me for allowing her to be abandoned? Then we'll explain to her exactly what happened, Sarah said firmly. Emily is an intelligent and compassionate girl. She'll understand that you were also a victim of circumstances. Are you so sure? I am. I know my daughter. She has a huge heart and always tries to understand people's side before judging them. Harrison felt a pang of pride. His daughter had grown up to be a good person, despite everything she had been through. Sarah, can I ask a few more questions about Emily? As many as you like. Does she have any health problems? Any special difficulties? Nothing serious. She wears glasses for nearsightedness, like most kids her age, and she has some food allergies, but nothing that can't be managed. Harrison smiled. Both he and Catherine were nearsighted, and he himself had several food allergies. What kind of allergies? Seafood and some specific nuts. We found out when she was 5 and had an allergic reaction at a birthday party. Harrison was allergic to exactly the same things. One more coincidence that strengthened his suspicions. And how is she doing in school? She's an excellent student, has a special knack for math and science. She also excels in writing. Harrison had been a brilliant student in STEM subjects during school. He had a degree in engineering before becoming a businessman. Does she have many friends? A few, but very close ones. Emily is a bit shy at first, but when she forms bonds, they're very deep. How does she handle the adoption issue? Does she ask questions about her biological parents? Sarah hesitated before answering. Lately, yes. She's at an age where she starts to question her origins. Sometimes she asks what her real parents were like, if they loved her, why they abandoned her. And what do you tell her? I always say that whatever the reason, it must have been very painful for them, and that sometimes people make difficult choices because they believe it's best for the child. Harrison was touched by Sarah's wisdom in handling such delicate matters. Has she ever shown resentment? In the beginning, when she was younger, yes. She went through periods where she was angry at the parents who left her. But with therapy and a lot of talking, she managed to work through those feelings. Therapy? Yes. I thought it was important for her to have professional help to process the trauma of abandonment. Dr. Jennifer, the psychologist, helped us a lot during the first years. Harrison was impressed with the care Sarah had taken with Emily's mental health. Do you think Dr. Jennifer could help us now in this situation? I'm sure. She knows Emily very well and could guide us on the best way to reveal the truth. Can you schedule an appointment for us to talk with her first, before involving Emily? Of course. She'll want to understand the whole situation before suggesting any approach. Harrison felt more confident, knowing they would have professional help. Sarah, you said we're meeting at 4 in the park? Yes. Do you still want to keep the meeting? Harrison thought for a moment, more than ever, but now with a different objective, which is to discreetly observe if I can identify any characteristics of mine or Catherine's in Emily, and to see if she shows any unconscious recognition when she sees me. And if she does, then we'll be even more certain we're on the right track. Sarah checked the watch on her wrist. It's 2:30 now. I need to pick up Emily from school in half an hour. Go. I need some time to process all of this before meeting her. Mr. Harrison, are you sure you're emotionally prepared for this? Harrison considered the question honestly. I don't know if anyone can be prepared for a situation like this, but I know I need to face it, regardless of how I feel. If at any point you want to stop or postpone, I won't want to, Harrison interrupted with determination. I've waited 15 years for this moment, even without knowing it would come. Sarah nodded and began to gather her belongings. Sarah, one more thing. Yes? Thank you. For what? For taking care of my daughter all these years, for giving her the love I couldn't give. Sarah felt tears forming again. Mr. Harrison, if Emily really is your daughter, then taking care of her was a privilege, not a favor. Even so, thank you. Sarah left the room, leaving Harrison alone with his thoughts. He stood up and went to the window, watching the city's movement below. In a matter of hours, his life had completely changed. He picked up the phone and called his lawyer. Mr. William? It's Harrison Sterling. I need your help with something urgent and delicate. Of course, Harrison. What is it about? I may have found my daughter. There was silence on the other end of the line. Your daughter Emily? The one who disappeared 15 years ago? Exactly. I need legal guidance on how to proceed. Harrison, this is extraordinary news. Where has she been all these years? She was adopted by one of my employees without any of us knowing about the connection. It's a long story. And how did you find out? Harrison briefly recounted the events of the morning. That's a remarkable coincidence, commented William, but are you sure it's her? Not 100% yet. We're going to do a DNA test, but the evidence is very convincing. And what is your intention in legal terms? That's my question. The girl is 9 years old, raised by someone else who loves her as a daughter. I don't want to traumatize her or destroy the family she's built. I understand your concern. Legally, you would have a right to custody as the biological father, but that's not what I want, Harrison interrupted. I want to find a solution that's best for Emily, not for me. That's a very mature attitude, Harrison. I suggest we talk in person about the legal options available. Can I stop by this afternoon? Actually, I'm leaving at 3 to meet Emily for the first time. How about tomorrow morning? Perfect. Harrison, may I make a suggestion? Of course. Document everything. Every conversation, every piece of evidence, every step of the process. If this is confirmed, you'll want a complete record of how the reunion happened. Good idea. Thank you, William. And Harrison, congratulations. I know how much you've suffered all these years. Harrison hung up the phone, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope he hadn't experienced in a long time. He checked his watch again. 3 o'clock. It was time to prepare for the most important meeting of his life. He went to the executive bathroom attached to his office and looked at himself in the mirror. His graying hair was disheveled and his eyes were red from crying. He didn't want to scare Emily with a disheveled appearance. After tidying up and using eye drops, Harrison returned to his desk and picked up his wallet. Inside, he kept an old photo of his daughter Emily at 5 years old. It was the last photo he had taken of her before the disappearance. He looked at the image for long minutes, trying to imagine how that little girl might have transformed into the 9-year-old Emily he was about to meet. Would it be possible to recognize family features after so long? The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. Mr. Harrison, it's Sarah. I'm leaving the school with Emily. We'll be at the park in 15 minutes. Perfect. I'm heading there now. Mr. Harrison. Yes. Emily is very excited. She said it's rare for me to introduce her to someone from work. And did you explain who I am? I only said you're my boss and a very special person who wanted to meet her. Thank you for not creating expectations. See you soon. Harrison put the photo back in his wallet and grabbed his car keys. Central Park was only 10 minutes from his office, but he wanted to arrive a few minutes early to mentally prepare. During the drive, Harrison tried to imagine how the meeting would be. Would Emily somehow recognize him? Would there be some instinctive connection between them? Or would he just be another stranger in her life? He arrived at the park and chose a bench near the playground where he could watch Emily playing before introducing himself. I wanted to see her in her natural environment, without the pressure of a formal presentation. At 4 o'clock sharp, he saw Sarah arriving, holding hands with a small girl with light brown hair. Even from a distance, Harrison felt his heart race. The child's posture, the way she walked, everything seemed familiar to him. As they approached, Harrison could see Emily's face clearly for the first time. The resemblance to his daughter at 6 years old was undeniable, but there were also features he recognized in himself. The shape of the eyes, the way she tilted her head when curious. "Emily, I want you to meet Mr. Harrison," Sarah said when they reached the bench. Emily hid shyly behind Sarah, but her large, expressive eyes remained fixed on Harrison. There was something in her gaze that seemed familiar, as if she too felt an inexplicable connection. "Hello, Emily," Harrison said softly, crouching down to her level. "It's a great pleasure to meet you." Emily stayed behind Sarah, but Harrison noticed she was watching him intently. She seemed to be studying his face, as if trying to remember something. "She's a bit shy at first," Sarah explained, "but she warms up quickly." "That's okay," Harrison said, keeping his voice calm and welcoming. "We're in no hurry." Emily took a step to the side, partially emerging from behind Sarah. "Do you work with Mommy Sarah?" she asked in a sweet, clear voice. "Yes, I do. Your mommy is a very special person at our company." Emily smiled timidly. "She's the best mommy in the world," she declared proudly. Harrison felt his heart tighten. The mutual devotion between Sarah and Emily was evident and beautiful to see. "I'm sure she is," Harrison agreed. "Sarah told me you really like parks." Emily nodded enthusiastically. "Can I play on the swing?" she asked Sarah. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's go." The three of them walked to the playground. Harrison watched Emily's every move, searching for familiar gestures. The way she ran, how she held the swing's chains, how she laughed when swinging high, everything stirred powerful memories of his biological daughter. "Mr. Harrison, will you push me?" "And will?" Emily asked, surprising both Harrison and Sarah with her initiative. "I'd love to," Harrison replied, positioning himself behind the swing. As he pushed Emily gently, Harrison noticed she had completely relaxed. She laughed and asked to go higher, exactly as his daughter Emily had done years ago. "Do you have children, Mr. Harrison?" Emily asked during a pause. The question hit Harrison like a punch. He looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "I had a daughter once," Harrison answered honestly. "She was about your age." "And where is she now?" "She got lost a long time ago." Emily stopped swinging and turned to look at Harrison. "Got lost how?" "On a trip. One day she was with me, the next day she wasn't." Emily got off the swing and approached Harrison. "Were you very sad?" "I was. It was the saddest thing that ever happened to me." Emily looked at him with eyes full of compassion. "I got lost once too," she said, "but Mommy Sarah found me." Harrison had to control himself not to cry in front of the girl. "Do you remember when you were lost?" Emily shook her head thoughtfully. "A little. I remember being very scared in a big time with lots of people." Harrison and Sarah exchanged meaningful glances. Big time could be a 3-year-old's way of describing a bus station. "And do you remember anything else from that time?" Harrison asked gently. Emily concentrated, as if trying to access very old memories. "There was a man who smelled nice and a woman who was always crying." Harrison felt his hands trembling. The description was exact. "Was the man kind to you?" "I think so. I felt safe with him. But he was always worried." "And would you like to find this man again?" Emily considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I dream about him. In the dream he's looking for me, and I want to say I'm okay, but he doesn't hear me." Harrison had to turn away to hide the tears that began to flow. Sarah noticed his emotional state and approached. "Emily, how about we go get some ice cream?" suggested Sarah, giving Harrison time to compose himself. "Can I choose the flavor?" "Of course." As Emily ran ahead toward the park's ice cream shop, Sarah touched Harrison's arm. "She recognized you," whispered Sarah. "I saw it in her eyes." "I noticed it too," Harrison confirmed. "Those memories, are too exact to be a coincidence. What do we do now? We spend more time with her today. We observe if there are other reactions. And tomorrow we arrange the DNA test. Are you sure you want to wait for the test? In my heart, I already know the answer. Harrison looked at Emily, choosing ice cream flavors with the seriousness of someone making an important decision. My heart knows too, he admitted, but we need scientific confirmation to decide how to proceed. At the ice cream shop, Emily chose a strawberry ice cream and sat between Sarah and Harrison at a small table. Harrison noticed she ate in the same way as his daughter, always saving the last spoonful, which she considered the best. "Emily, can I ask you something?" said Harrison. "Sure." "What do you like to do most?" "Drawing," she answered immediately. "I want to be an artist when I grow up." Harrison smiled. His daughter also loved to draw. "What kind of things do you like to draw?" "Families," said Emily. "I always draw happy families." "What are those families like in your drawings?" Emily got excited by the question. "There's a daddy, a mommy, and little kids. Sometimes there's a grandpa and grandma too, and there's always a big house with a garden and little dogs." "Would you like to have a family like that?" Emily looked at Sarah affectionately. "I already have a family, me and Mommy Sarah. But if you could have more people in your family, who would they be?" Emily thought carefully. "A daddy would be nice," she said finally, "to teach me guy stuff and protect me when Mommy isn't around." Harrison felt his heart tighten again. What would that daddy be like? "He'd be kind like you, Mr. Harrison, and he'd smell nice too." Sarah almost choked on her ice cream. The child was clearly making associations between Harrison and the father figure she sought. "Emily, do you think I would be a good daddy?" asked Harrison, surprising himself with his boldness. Emily studied him seriously for a few moments. "You have sad eyes, but they are kind. I think you would take good care of a girl." "Why are my eyes sad?" "Because you lost your daughter," replied Emily with the brutal simplicity of children. "But maybe you can find another daughter to take care of." Harrison had to get up and go to the bathroom to compose himself. Emily's words were innocent, but deeply moving. When he returned, he found Sarah and Emily drawing on napkins with the ice cream shop's colored pens. "Look what I'm drawing for you, mister." "Harrison," said Emily, showing a simple drawing of 3 figures holding hands. "Who are these people?" "It's us. You, me, and Mommy Sarah." Harrison took the napkin with trembling hands. It was a simple child's drawing, but it represented exactly what he had been secretly wishing for. A family. "It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever received," Harrison said sincerely. "You can keep it," offered Emily. "That way, you won't forget us." "I could never forget you two." Emily smiled radiantly and turned her attention to another drawing. Harrison carefully folded the napkin and placed it in the inner pocket of his jacket, next to the old photo of his daughter. "Mr. Harrison, can you tell me more about your lost daughter?" Emily asked suddenly. Harrison looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "She was about your age. She liked to draw just like you, and she had a yellow teddy bear that she took everywhere." Emily stopped drawing abruptly. "Like Sunshine?" "Sunshine? He's my teddy bear. He's been with me since I was really little. He's yellow, too." Harrison felt the world spin around him once more. "Can you describe Sunshine for me?" "His ears are a little worn because I play with them when I'm sleepy, and he has a little brown spot on his left arm." Harrison remembered the spot. That was where his daughter had spilled chocolate on the bear during a trip to the mall. "Emily," said Harrison with a trembling voice, "could you bring Sunshine for me to meet one of these days?" "Of course, he's very friendly. He likes meeting new people." "I think Sunshine and I would be great friends." "Why?" "Because we both take care of very special girls." Emily laughed at the comparison. "You're funny, Mr. Harrison. Can I call you Uncle Harrison?" The question caught Harrison off guard. Uncle was affectionate, but still maintained a safe distance. "I would love for you to call me Uncle Harrison." "So now you're part of our little family," declared Emily. "Me, Mommy Sarah, and Uncle Harrison." Sarah discreetly wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. The ease with which Emily had adopted Harrison into her family circle was touching, and at the same time revealing. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. Harrison accompanied Emily on the playground. helped her feed the ducks in the park's small pond, and patiently listened to her stories about school and friends. Every minute spent with her reinforced his certainty that he had found his daughter. When it began to get dark, Sarah said it was time to go home. "Is Uncle Harrison coming with us?" asked Emily. "Not today, sweetheart. Uncle Harrison has important things to do. But can he come over for dinner another day?" Harrison looked at Sarah, who nodded. "I would love to have dinner with you," said Harrison. "How about tomorrow night?" "Yay!" Emily celebrated. "I'll ask Mommy to make my favorite dish." "And what's that?" "Pot roast, but only Mommy Sarah's because she makes it just the way I like it." Harrison smiled, remembering that pot roast was also his daughter's favorite dish when she was 6. When it was time to say goodbye, Emily surprised Harrison with a spontaneous hug. "Thank you for playing with me, Uncle Harrison," she said. "It was the best day I've had in a long time." "For me too, Emily. For me too." When Sarah and Emily walked away, Harrison remained in the park for a few more minutes, processing everything that had happened. He had no more doubts. Emily was his daughter. The DNA test would be just a formality. More important than that, Harrison realized he had found something he thought was lost forever, the ability to love unconditionally. Emily had awakened feelings in him that had been dormant for 15 years. On the way back home, Harrison called William. "William, I need to speed up our conversation. Can you come to my house tonight?" "Of course. Did something important happen?" "I am absolutely certain I have found my daughter." "Harrison, that's wonderful. Did she recognize you?" "In a way, yes. She immediately adopted me as Uncle Harrison and wants me to have dinner at her house tomorrow." "How do you feel?" "Scared and happy at the same time. I need to know exactly what my legal rights and responsibilities are before we proceed." "I understand. I'll be there in an hour." Harrison arrived home and sat in his favorite armchair, looking at the drawing Emily had made for him. For the first time in 15 years, his house didn't feel empty and silent. There was hope in the air. He picked up the phone and called Sarah. "Sarah, it's Harrison. How is Emily?" "She hasn't stopped talking about you since we got home. She wants to know if you're really coming for dinner tomorrow." "Of course I am." "Sarah, I need to tell you that my lawyer is coming to see me tonight. We want to understand the legal situation clearly before we reveal the truth to Emily." "Good idea. I also called Dr. Jennifer. She can see us tomorrow morning before dinner." "Perfect. Let's do everything the right way." "Harrison. Can I call you Harrison now?" "Of course." "Thank you for today. It's been a long time since I've seen Emily so happy and excited." "Thank you, Sarah. You have no idea what it meant to me." "Actually, I think I do. I saw in your eyes the same love I feel for her." "Sarah, can you do me a favor?" "Anything. Can you ask Emily if she has any recurring dream? Something she always dreams about?" "She does. She dreams about a man who is always looking for her but can never find her." "Why?" Harrison closed his eyes, feeling tears stream down. "Because I dream exactly the same thing. I dream that I'm looking for her and she's trying to tell me where she is, but I can't hear her." Sarah was silent for a moment. "Harrison, I think the two of you have been searching for each other through your dreams all these years." "Maybe." "Sarah, one more question. Is Emily afraid of anything specific?" "Yes. She's terrified of crowds and noisy places. I always thought it was strange for a child her age. That's exactly how she was at 6 years old. She hated places with lots of people." "Harrison, every single thing you tell me just confirms more and more that she is your daughter. For me, I don't need any more confirmation. My heart already knows. But we need the test for legal security." "I agree. See you tomorrow, Harrison." "See you tomorrow, Sarah." Harrison hung up the phone and kept looking at Emily's drawing. 3 figures holding hands representing an unlikely but real family. For more than a decade, he had believed his ability to be a father had died along with Emily's disappearance. Now he discovered it had been preserved, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. When William arrived, Harrison had already prepared coffee and organized all the old documents related to Emily's disappearance. They had 2 hours of intense conversation about the legal complexities of the situation. "Harrison, legally speaking, you have rights as the biological father," explained William. "But the situation is delicate because Sarah's adoption was legal, and she has been the girl's recognized mother for 6 years. I don't want to take Emily away from Sarah," Harrison reaffirmed. "I want to find a way for all of us to be happy. The best option would be an informal shared custody arrangement with Sarah's agreement. You could share responsibilities without involving the courts. And if Sarah changed her mind in the future, that's why it's important to document everything. If you prove you are the biological father and that you voluntarily relinquished custody rights for the child's well-being, that will be legally respected. And the DNA test? Essential. Without it, you have no legal basis for any claim. How can I do it without Emily noticing? There are discreet ways. A few strands of hair will work, or you can collect saliva from a cup she has used." Harrison nodded, already planning how he would discreetly collect the sample during the next day's dinner. "William, what if we discover she's not my daughter? What if it's just a series of cruel coincidences? Then you will have lived one of the most beautiful moments of your life and gained 2 special people in your family of the heart," William replied wisely. "Sometimes families aren't formed by blood, but by love," Harrison agreed. Regardless of the test result, Emily had already earned a permanent place in his heart. After William left, Harrison had trouble sleeping. His mind wouldn't stop replaying every detail of the meeting with Emily, every gesture, every word. For the first time in 15 years, he fell asleep smiling. The next morning, Harrison woke up earlier than usual. He had a lot to do before dinner at Sarah's house. First, he went to the lab to arrange the DNA test. Then he stopped at a toy store to buy something special for Emily. He chose a professional drawing kit with high-quality colored pencils and special paper. If Emily really liked to draw, he wanted to encourage her with the best materials. In the consultation with Dr. Jennifer, Harrison and Sarah told the whole story. The psychologist listened carefully, asking specific questions to better understand the situation. "It's an extraordinary case," commented Dr. Jennifer. "The coincidence is truly impressive." "Doctor, how should we proceed with Emily?" asked Sarah. "First, wait for the DNA test confirmation. Then, if it's positive, I suggest you tell the truth gradually, starting with a version adapted for her age." "How so?" "Explain that Harrison is a very special person who was part of her life when she was very little, but that they got lost for a while. Now they've found each other again and can be a bigger family. And if she asks questions about why she was abandoned, explain that it was never abandonment, that it was an accident, a very sad situation that happened without anyone wanting it, and that the most important thing is that everyone is together again now." Harrison felt more secure with the psychologist's guidance. "Doctor, can Emily handle this information well?" "Emily is a resilient child who has already been through many adaptations in life. With the support of you both and professional follow-up, I believe she can process this information in a healthy way." "When should we tell her?" "I would suggest waiting a few days after confirming the DNA. Let Emily get used to Harrison's presence in her life. When she is completely comfortable, then reveal the truth." The 3 left the consultation with a clear plan of action. Harrison felt more confident about how to handle the delicate situation. In the afternoon, Harrison arrived at Sarah's house carrying the drawing kit and a bottle of wine for the adults. It was a simple but cozy house, with Emily's drawings scattered on the living room walls. "Uncle Harrison!" Emily shouted excitedly, running to hug him. "Hi, Princess," Harrison said, affectionately using the nickname he gave his biological daughter. "I brought a surprise for you." Emily opened the drawing kit with eyes shining with emotion. "It's the most beautiful kit I've ever seen," she exclaimed. "Thank you, Uncle Harrison." "Now you can make even more beautiful drawings," said Harrison, watching Sarah prepare the pot roast in the kitchen. During dinner, Harrison discreetly observed Emily's eating habits. She ate slowly, always talking between bites exactly as his daughter used to do. He also noticed that she automatically separated the tomato pieces from the pot roast, something his biological daughter always did. After the meal, Emily insisted on showing her room to Harrison. The walls were covered in drawings, but one in particular caught Harrison's attention. It was a drawing of a bus station with many small people and a large bus in the background. "When did you draw this, Emily?" "Last year. Sometimes I dream of this place and I need to draw to stop having nightmares." Harrison felt a lump in his throat. It was clearly the traumatic memory from the day of the disappearance. "And how do you feel when you look at this drawing now?" "I don't know. It's like it's an important place, but I don't remember why." Harrison knelt beside her at her eye level. "Emily, sometimes places that marked us deeply stay stored in our memory, even when we don't understand why. Like a treasure chest in the mind, exactly like a treasure chest." Emily smiled and showed other drawings. Harrison noticed that many of them depicted the same male figure, a man in a suit who always appeared to be searching for something. "Who is this man in your drawings?" "I don't know. He's been in my dreams forever. Mom Sarah thinks it might be a memory from when I was very little." Harrison had to control himself not to reveal that was exactly how he dressed for work 15 years ago. "He seems to be an important person to you." "I think so. In the dream, he's always sad and looking for something. I want to help him, but he doesn't see me." "And how does that make you feel?" "It makes me sad too. I wish I could tell him that I'm okay and that he doesn't need to keep searching." Harrison had to leave the room for a moment to compose himself. Sarah found him in the kitchen wiping tears from his eyes. "Is everything okay?" "Her drawings, Sarah, they're exactly the things I dreamed about every night. It's as if our memories have been connected all these years." "Were you able to collect material for the test?" Harrison showed a glass that Emily had used during dinner, carefully wrapped in aluminum foil. "The lab said we'll have the result in 48 hours. And if it confirms she's your daughter, then we'll form the most unusual family that ever existed," Harrison said, smiling, "and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for these 15 lost years." "Harrison, can I tell you something?" "Of course. Even if the test comes back negative, you're already part of our family. Emily has become attached to you in a way I've never seen before. I've become attached to both of you in a way I didn't think was possible anymore." Emily came back from the living room, carrying Sunshine, the yellow teddy bear. "Uncle Harrison, I want to introduce you to Sunshine," she said solemnly. Harrison took the teddy bear with reverent care. It was exactly as he remembered: faded yellow, worn ears, and the small brown stain on the left arm. "Hello, Sunshine," Harrison said. His voice choked. "It's a pleasure to meet you again. To meet you." Emily laughed at the correction. "Sunshine liked you. He's smiling." Harrison looked at the teddy bear and for a moment could swear it was really smiling. "Emily, does Sunshine have any special story?" "Mom Sarah said he was with me when I arrived at the foster care center. He's been my best friend forever." Harrison handed the teddy bear back to Emily, but not before noticing it still smelled faintly of the fabric softener Catherine used years ago. The rest of the evening passed quickly. Harrison helped Emily with her homework, read her a bedtime story, and talked at length with Sarah about the next steps. "Sarah, regardless of the test result, I want to formalize my participation in Emily's life," Harrison said before leaving. "How so?" "I want to contribute to her education, to her future plans, to everything she needs. If you both agree, of course." "Harrison, that would be wonderful. Emily deserves every possible opportunity. And you deserve support too. Raising a child alone isn't easy." "Thank you. That means a lot to me." 2 days later, Harrison received the call that would change his life forever. "Mr. Sterling, this is the lab. Your test results are ready." "And what is the result?" "Positive for paternity with 99.9% certainty. Congratulations, sir. The child is definitely your biological daughter." Harrison had to sit down. Even expecting this confirmation, hearing the words spoken aloud was overwhelming. "Are you absolutely sure?" "Sir, with that percentage, there is no room for doubt. The girl is your daughter." Harrison hung up the phone and immediately called Sarah. "Sarah, it's official. Emily is my daughter." There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. "How are you feeling?" "Like I won the lottery and got hit by a truck at the same time," Harrison confessed. It's a lot of emotion all at once. And now? Now we tell Emily just as Dr. Jennifer advised. When? How about tonight? Can I come over for dinner again? Of course, Harrison. Are you sure you're ready? I don't know if anyone can be ready for a conversation like this, but I know I can't put it off any longer. Emily deserves to know the truth. That night after dinner, Harrison, Sarah, and Emily sat in the living room. Emily was playing on the floor with her new drawings when Harrison decided it was time. Emily, I need to talk to you about something very special. Emily looked up, noticing the serious tone in Harrison's voice. Is it something bad, Uncle Harrison? No, my beautiful girl. It's something very, very good, but it's also a little complicated to explain. Emily came closer and sat on the couch between Harrison and Sarah. Do you remember I told you I had a daughter who was lost a long time ago? Yes, you were very sad. Exactly. Well, we found out something amazing. Do you want to know what it is? Emily nodded, curious. We found out that the little girl who was lost was you. Emily looked at him, confused. What do you mean? You are my daughter, Emily. My biological daughter that I thought I had lost forever. Emily was silent for a long moment, processing the information. But I'm Mommy Sarah's daughter, she finally said. And you still are, Harrison hurried to explain. Mommy Sarah is your real mother, who took care of you, who gave you love every day. I am your biological father, who loved you when you were tiny, but who couldn't take care of you because I didn't know where you were. So I have two dads now, if you want, Harrison said gently. You can have Mommy Sarah, who is your heart mommy, and me, who is your blood daddy. Emily looked at Sarah. Mommy, is it true? Yes, my love. Harrison is your biological father, but that doesn't change anything between us. You are still my heart daughter. Emily was thoughtful for a few minutes. Is that why I felt good with you from the first day? It could be, Harrison replied. Sometimes the heart recognizes important people even when the mind doesn't remember. And is that why you smell like the man from my dreams? Harrison nodded, too emotional to speak. Emily got up and went to the window, looking outside as she processed everything. Daddy Harrison, she finally said. It was the first time she had called him Daddy. Harrison felt tears streaming down his face. Yes, my princess? You won't lose me ever again? Never again. I promise. Emily ran back to the couch and threw herself into Harrison's arms. So now I have a complete family, she exclaimed. Mommy Sarah, Daddy Harrison, and me. Harrison and Sarah looked at each other over the girl's head, both crying with emotion. And Sunshine is part of the family too, Emily added. He took care of me until you found each other. Of course he is, Harrison agreed. Sunshine is a very important member of the family. That night, after Emily fell asleep, Harrison and Sarah talked at length about what the new family dynamic would be like. Harrison, how are we going to organize this practically? I want you both to keep living here. This is Emily's home where she feels safe. But I'd like to spend as much time as possible with both of you. What about her education? I want to be part of everything. School meetings, important decisions, plans for the future, but always respecting your position as the primary mother. And what if I meet someone in the future, or if you do? Harrison thought carefully. Emily always comes first. Anyone who enters either of our lives will have to understand and accept our non-traditional family. I completely agree. Sarah, can I confess something to you? Of course. All these years I blamed myself for Emily's disappearance. I thought it was my fault for not being able to protect her. And now I realize that maybe everything happened for a reason. If Emily hadn't gotten lost, she never would have found you. And you are an amazing mother, much better than I could have been alone back then. Harrison, don't give yourself so little credit. Taking care of Emily has been the greatest joy of my life. And allowing me to be part of that joy is the greatest gift you could give me. In the following months, the non-traditional family of Harrison, Sarah, and Emily flourished. Harrison moved to a house on the same street, to be close without intruding on their space. He actively participated in Emily's routine. He took her to school some mornings, helped with homework, attended school meetings. Emily adapted wonderfully to the new situation. She called Sarah Mommy and Harrison Daddy, and explained to anyone who asked that she had a special family with 2 houses and lots of love. Harrison also changed profoundly in all aspects of his life. He became a more humane businessman, creating family-friendly policies at the company and establishing a fund to help families who had gone through the experience of missing children. 1 year after the reunion, Harrison, Sarah, and Emily took a trip to Asheville. They visited the bus station where everything had happened, and Harrison finally made peace with that place. "Daddy, do you still get sad when you remember that time?" asked Emily as they walked through the bus station. "Sometimes I do," Harrison admitted. "But then I look at you and at Mommy Sarah and realize all the sadness was worth it to get to this happy moment. Do you think Mommy Catherine would like to meet me?" The question took Harrison by surprise. Emily had learned about Catherine through conversations with the psychologist. "I would love for you to meet," said Harrison, "but Mommy Catherine lives very far away and still feels guilty about what happened. Can I send her a letter?" Harrison looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course, Princess, I think she would be very happy to know you're okay." 2 weeks later, Catherine called Harrison crying. "Harrison, I received Emily's letter. I can't stop crying. How are you?" "Better than I've been in 15 years. Knowing she's alive, that she's happy, that she forgives us, it's like a giant weight has been lifted from my shoulders." "Catherine, Emily would really like to meet you." "I would too, but I'm afraid my presence might trigger bad memories for her. She doesn't remember you as the woman who was crying. She wants to meet the woman who brought her into the world with love. Do you think it would be appropriate?" "I think it would be wonderful. Our daughter deserves to know her whole story." 3 months later, Catherine made her first visit. The meeting was emotional, but delicate. Emily greeted her with the natural curiosity of children, asking 1,000 questions about what she was like as a baby. "Do you have any pictures of me when I was really little?" asked Emily. Catherine opened a box she had brought full of photos from Emily's early years. "Wow, I was so tiny!" exclaimed Emily, flipping through the photos. "And Daddy Harrison was younger too." "Much younger," agreed Catherine, smiling for the first time in a long while. "Why were you sad back at the bus station?" Catherine looked at Harrison, who nodded encouragingly. "I was sick, Emily. Not sick in my body, but sick in my mind. Sometimes mommies get very confused after babies are born. But are you better now?" "Much better. Knowing you are well has healed me completely. So can you visit us always?" Catherine looked questioningly at Harrison and Sarah. "If you'd like," said Sarah generously. "Emily has the right to know all her family." 2 years after the reunion, Harrison organized an 11th birthday party for Emily. Present were Sarah, Catherine, some of Emily's school friends, and even Dr. Jennifer, who had become a family friend. During the party, Harrison gave an emotional speech. 3 years ago, I was ready to give up on everything. I thought there was nothing left in life worth living for. Then a small picture changed everything." He looked at Emily, who was surrounded by friends singing happy birthday. "Emily taught me that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come in ways we never expect. That family isn't just who gave birth to us, but who chooses us every day. That love has no expiration date, and it's never too late to start over." Harrison raised his glass of soda. "A toast to our non-traditional, but completely real family. To Sarah, who taught me that caring for someone is the purest form of love. To Emily, who gave me back the ability to dream. And to life, which sometimes gives us second chances when we least expect them." Everyone toasted, and Emily ran to give a group hug to Harrison, Sarah, and Catherine. "You are the best family in the world," she declared, "even though it's different from other families." "Especially because it's different," corrected Harrison. "The most special things are always unique." That night, after everyone had left, Harrison stayed helping Sarah tidy up the house while Emily slept. "Sarah, can I thank you once more?" "For what now?" "For making this happy ending possible. You could have been scared when you discovered the truth. You could have tried to push me away from Emily, but you chose love over fear. Harrison, you gave me the chance to be part of something bigger than myself. Before you, I was just Sarah, a woman raising a girl alone. Now I'm part of a family. I have a greater purpose. And what is that purpose? To show Emily that love has no limits or boundaries, that a family can be built with people who choose each other, even when blood doesn't connect them directly. Harrison nodded, looking at the party photo they had taken all together. Him, Sarah, Emily, Catherine, and even Sunshine, the teddy bear that had guarded the love through all those years of separation. You know, Sarah, sometimes I think about what would have happened if you hadn't dropped that photo from your bag that day. I think about that too. I think fate would have found another way to bring us together. Some connections are too strong for the universe to ignore. Do you really believe that? I do. Emily always said she dreamed of you before she even knew you. You always dreamed of her without knowing where she was. They were two hearts searching for each other across time and space. Harrison smiled, putting away the last of the party leftovers. And the most beautiful part is that, when we finally found each other, we weren't the same people from 15 years ago. We were better versions of ourselves. How so? You had become an amazing mother. I had learned to value the simple things in life. Emily had grown strong and resilient, and when we came together, each brought their best qualities to form something greater. A true family. The most genuine family that ever existed. 5 years after the reunion, Emily, now 14 years old, wrote an essay at school titled, "My Special Family." The teacher was so moved that she asked for permission to share the text with other students. In the essay, Emily wrote, "My family isn't like the other families I see in movies or books. I have a mother who didn't give birth to me, but who chooses me every day. I have a father who lost me when I was little, but never stopped loving me. And I have a biological mother who visits me and tells me stories from when I was a baby. Some people think it's strange when I explain my family, but I think the people who find it strange are the ones who don't understand how love really works. Love doesn't need rules or specific formats. Love just needs to be sincere and constant. My family loves me in every possible way, with daily presence, with special care, with stories from the past, and with plans for the future. I've learned that family is who stays with you in the hard times and celebrates with you in the happy times. It's who truly knows you and loves you exactly as you are. Sometimes I think about what my life would be like if I had grown up in a normal family. It would probably be simpler, but it would certainly be less interesting. My family taught me that life doesn't need to be simple to be happy. It just needs to be full of love. So, when people ask me if I don't miss having real parents, I answer that I have parents more real than anyone could imagine. Because my parents chose me not just once, but every day for 15 years. And that is the most beautiful definition of family I know, people who choose each other, day after day, for pure and simple love. When Harrison read the essay, he had to leave the room to cry. They were tears of pure joy, of gratitude for the second chance life had given him. Sarah found him in the backyard, looking at the stars. "Harrison, is everything okay?" "It's more than okay," Harrison replied, wiping his eyes. "I'm just processing how amazing it is to see your daughter become this wise and mature young woman." "Our daughter," Sarah gently corrected. "Our daughter," Harrison repeated, smiling. "You know, Sarah, during all those years of searching, I imagined 1,000 different scenarios for a possible reunion with Emily. But never, not even in my wildest dreams, did I imagine something as beautiful as the reality we live. Why? Because in my dreams I was always the hero who saved Emily from some terrible situation. In reality, it was she who saved me, and you too. How so? You both saved me from a life of bitterness and loneliness. You gave me back the ability to love, to trust, to dream about the future. Emily didn't need to be saved. She was blossoming beautifully with you. The one who needed saving was me." Sarah moved closer and touched Harrison's arm. "You know what I find most incredible about this whole story?" "What?" "It's that we all came out winners. Emily gained a father and reclaimed her history. You got your daughter back and a family, and I gained a partner to share the responsibility and the joy of raising an incredible person. And Catherine gained too," Harrison added. "She managed to make peace with the past and become part of Emily's life again." "Even Sunshine gained," Sarah joked. "Now he has more people to love Emily." The two laughed, watching Emily through the living room window, doing her homework with sunshine by her side, as always. "Sarah, can I confess something I never told you?" "Of course." "On the day you dropped the photo on my desk, I had my resignation letter ready. I was going to quit the company, sell everything, and move somewhere I could live as a hermit." "Really?" "Completely serious. I was convinced there was nothing left in this world that could interest or motivate me." "And what changed?" Harrison thought carefully before answering. "When I saw Emily's picture, something inside me awakened. It wasn't just the physical resemblance to my daughter. It was the memory of what it's like to love someone more than yourself, what it's like to have a greater reason to live. And you didn't know she was your daughter at that moment?" "No. But my father's heart recognized the potential to love again, and that was enough to make me tear up the resignation letter and decide to keep fighting." "So, even before we discovered the truth, Emily had already changed your life. Completely. And you know what the most beautiful part was?" "What?" "It was realizing that a father's love hadn't died inside me. It was just waiting for the right person to awaken again." Sarah was moved by Harrison's words. "And now? How do you see the future?" Harrison looked at the house where Emily was studying, at Sarah by his side and at the stars above. "I see a future full of possibilities. Emily will grow up and follow her dreams. You will continue to be the amazing mother you've always been. And I will have the privilege of being close to it all, knowing I was part of something much bigger than myself. And if Emily decides to leave home to study at university, then the three of us will cheer her on and support her decisions. And when she starts her own family, she'll teach her children that love has no limits or predefined forms. Do you think she'll want to have children?" "I don't know. But if she does, she'll be an incredible mother. She learned from the best," said Harrison, looking affectionately at Sarah. At that moment, Emily appeared at the back door. "Dad, Mum, are you out here talking about me?" "We're always talking about you," replied Harrison. "You're our favorite subject." "That's good. Can I sit with you? The stars are very beautiful tonight." "Of course, my love," said Sarah, making room on the garden bench. Emily sat between the two of them, and the three of them stayed silent for a few minutes, just contemplating the sky. "Dad Harrison," Emily finally said. "Yes, Princess? Thank you for never stopping to look for me, even when you didn't know where I was." "How do you know I never stopped?" "Because true love never stops searching, and I always knew you truly loved me, even when I didn't know you existed." Harrison hugged Emily tightly, feeling gratitude for every second of this new life they had built together. "Mom, Sarah," Emily continued. "Yes, my love? Thank you for finding me when I was lost, and for letting me find my father too. It was the greatest joy of my life, Emily. And thank you both for showing me that family is about choosing each other every day." The three of them held each other under the stars, knowing they had created something rare and precious. A family built not just by chance or by blood, but by conscious choice and unconditional love. Years later, when Emily graduated from college, she gave a thank you speech that mentioned her non-traditional, but completely real family. In the audience, Harrison, Sarah, and Catherine applauded with pride, knowing they had fulfilled their mission to raise a strong, loving, and self-assured young woman. After the graduation, Emily hugged each of the three individually. "Dad Harrison, thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to start over and that love can overcome any distance or time. Mom Sarah, thank you for showing me that caring is the most beautiful form of love and that family is about constant and unconditional presence. Mom Catherine, thank you for teaching me that people can change, that mistakes can be forgiven, and that life always offers opportunities for redemption." On that day, Harrison realized that the small photo that had fallen from Sarah's purse 8 years earlier hadn't just changed his life. It had created a legacy of love that would spread across future generations. On the way home after the graduation, Sarah remarked, "Harrison, did you realize that today marks exactly 8 years since that day at the office?" "I did. And you know what else I realized?" "What?" "That wasn't the last time a photo changed my life." "How so?" Harrison took from his pocket a graduation photo they had all taken together. This photo will also change my life. It will remind me every day that love multiplies when it is shared and that the best families are the ones we build with our hearts. Sarah smiled, carefully placing the new photo next to the old photo of a young Emily that she still carried in her wallet. 2 photos, 2 times, 1 single love story. The most beautiful love story I've ever lived, agreed Harrison. And so, what began with a photo that fell accidentally turned into a family that chose to stay together on purpose. A family that proved that sometimes the happiest endings begin in the moments we are ready to give up, and that true love has the power to rewrite any story, no matter how lost it may seem. End of story. This was a fictional story created to touch our hearts. Now tell us what you thought. Do you believe Harrison made the right decisions in forming this non-traditional family? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to like if the story moved you. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that speak to the heart.